A young man talks about his ordeal 5 years ago. Apparently, he had been bullied and this prevented him from leaving his room. He had lost hope in life and had begun to live his life aimlessly while spending his time playing video games. At that moment, a bright line shone that teleported him to a different realm. Getting there, he is met by a girl in white who congratulates him for being selected to be reincarnated after careful consideration. This happened to be done after what she termed as a careful consideration. Hearing this, the man is surprised that he is to be reincarnated. He is however pleased and unbothered that he ended up dying in the room he kept himself. Meanwhile, she informs him that the new world he heads to is a world where magical faculty means everything. Due to this, she promises to grant him overpowered skills to facilitate his new life. Furthermore, she instructs him to try and enjoy his new life this time around. After a hasty consideration, the man states that he wants a nice quiet life, a world with animes and games for him to play all day long. This, coupled with the chance to doze off without realizing anything. This life, he believes, beats every other. Then, he agrees to be reincarnated. While he is being reincarnated, he is determined to use the skills the angel has promised him to live a very lazy life. Shockingly, when he opens his eyes, he realizes that he is a baby. While it would seem fortunate, he is born to royalty. Seeing him, the queen is excited. On the other hand, the king is pleased, most especially since they thought of a prince who would take after the both of them would be really impressive. Looking at the prince's chest, he sees that he bears the royal insignia on his left chest. With this, he doesn't doubt the fact that the child is theirs. Meanwhile, the man, seeing that his parents are royalty, consoles himself with the thought of being 8th in line for the throne. However, the king immediately orders for a magical assessment of the prince. He seeks to know what the maximum mana level of the prince is. He believes this will be very high since the prince is being born to the Flash princess, who had defeated the Demon King. He believes this will make the prince's mana level to be at least 40 or 50. Shockingly, he is told that the prince's level is 2 and he has no element. This means he can only use barrier magic. Hearing this, the king is surprised. He wonders how a good-for-nothing prince could be born to him and the Flash princess. He believes the existence of the prince would cause outrage amongst his subject. To this, the queen agrees. They immediately decide to tell the council that the prince died during childbirth. Hearing this, the man is shocked, more at the fact that he would be dying immediately after reincarnation. Since he was surrounded by awful people in his past life, he didn't think he will meet people like this in this world. While the king seems keen on disclosing the prince, the mage tries to caution him, but he orders the mage to be silent. Instead, he orders one of the maids to dispose the child in the forest. When the angel sees this, she begins to panic. When asked what happened, she reveals that she had given the man overpowered skills and no one in the human world had realized it. This happens because the measuring device in the human world can only go up to 2 digits. Also, she had forgotten to give him an element. I know you're curious about what she set his level to. Well, she set it to 1002. That is an outrageous number for a human. Shortly after, the man finds himself in the forest, placed in a basket. Alone, he remembers the mage had sought he can use barrier magic. To save himself, he tries to use the barrier, trying to figure out a way to visualize it. On his first rule, he comes up with a cuboid. This makes him pleased at the thought that magic can be so easy. Furthermore, he finds out that he can enlarge it and give it a differenter color. He tries to make the cuboid into differenter shapes and realizes that he can make it into anything he thinks about. Just then, he finally tries to use it for himself and is able to shield himself with it. Then, he raises the cube with him in it, and surprisingly, it works. This makes him realize that his power is more useful than he had thought. He believes it doesn't eyes mana. This makes him confident that if he is attacked by a wild animal, he can defend himself. Surprisingly, his thought is cut short as he is attacked by a large wolf. The wolf tries to eat him up, and it ends up biting the cube around him. Seeing how functional the cubes are, he decides to create a bunch of other cubes in a bid to attacking the wolf. Unfortunately, the cubes are small and have no effect on the wolf. Since this doesn't do damage to the wolf, he decides to use something bigger. He makes use of the cubes to lift multiple trees which he throws at the wolf. The trees fall in the wolf and it also easily stands up. Then, he decides to go bigger. This time, he lifts a large portion of the earth and directs it towards the wolf. Seeing the large earth approaching it, the wolf begins to beg for mercy. At first, the man doesn't hear her, but when she screams louder announcing her surrender, he stops. Later on, after the attack had been halted, the wolf reveals that it had tried to eat HKM in order to replenish her mana, but didn't know that he would be so strong. She seeks to know what he is, but he surprisingly cannot talk since he is a baby. This surprises the wolf, who thinks that his behavior is too logical for a baby. In order to be able to respond to her, he makes use of his magic to convert his th putta into sound. After using this, he is able to speak. At that moment, the wolf seeks to know who he is. In response, he states that his name is Haruto, who was born in a faraway kingdom, but was abandoned for his low mana level. This surprises the wolf, especially since she could sense mana emanating from the baby. The amount of mana emanating from the baby makes the wolf ask if he is the Demon King reincarnate. Since he was pretty unknown in his past, he doesn't reveal that, especially since this would make him look like a loser. Due to this, he accepts that he is truly the Demon King. Hearing this, the wolf is shocked to her bones. However, she sees this as a reasonable explanation for BJ's strength. Due to this, she lies on her back to admit defeat and asks him to kill her. Not wanting to do so, he states that he is fine, as long as she doesn't attack him. She sees this as an utmost act of generosity. This causes her to swear to him, promising to keep that promise, especially since she is a proud flame Fenrir. Having heard this, Haruto refers to her as Frey, and says goodbye. Since he referred to her by a name, she forms a pact with him, referring to him as her master. With this pact, she swears to devote herself to him. He finds this to be confusing since he only shortened her name, and never intended to give her a new name. However, she doesn't seem interested in what he says at this point. Suddenly, he becomes weak. Wondering what the problem is, Haruto realizes that it isn't a problem he can solve with magic. This problems happen to be that of hunger, and he needs some milk. To give him some, the wolf transforms into a human, determined to do anything for her master. Seeing her life, this makes him uncomfortable as she has no clothes on. Even after she puts on SKME clothes, he still complains about how eye-catching she looks. At that moment, she gets ready to give him some milk, but finds out that she has none to give. When she realizes this, she apologizes to him. While they talk, she notices someone approaching them. Just then, she asks for permission to kill them. However, Haruto cautions her not to do so, and JNSV learn how to communicate. He urges her to ask them what they are after. Then, he uses his magic to create a link with her to tell her what to say. Just then, the two are approached by a man who claims he is a relative of the baby's parents and had come to save the child. He tells them a story of how his wife was unable to give birth to a child and asks to be allowed to take the child. While Frey refuses, he offers to give the child the milk he needs. Seeing this, Haruto is hungry and wants it, but she insists that he doesn't need JT. Eventually, she agrees and they follow the man to his house. Years later, Haruto is grown up and now living with the man. G finds himself with a new sister and a mother who loves him. While he tries to blend with the family, the little girl don't want to be friends with him. Since she wants them to be close, the mother suggests that he gives her a gift. Meanwhile, alone in his room, we realize that he now has a clone of himself which he has magically made. He intends to use this on the occasion of his departure efforts he had put into making the clone move and speak have proved to be futile. However, this will be hard since the clone cannot move or speak. At that moment, his father calls him and he heads down to see a Fu fencing setup. His father instructs him that he has to learn fencing, but he insists that he only wants to learn ancient magic. At this moment, he makes to leave, but he is stopped by his father, who assures him that he needs to learn fencing. Then, H3 hands him a wooden sword and Taze to attack him. Before he attacks him, he flies up in the air and dodges the attack. Seeing this, his father is shocked. He wonders how someone with little mana level and no element is able to do this. At this tomb, Haruto had also hit his sword on the GR Lind, causing it to break and searing a hole on the ground. When his father T2'd to attack JN return, he jumps swiftly J in the air, and TH6 shocks the hell out KF his father, who sees this as SL nothing someone with a level 30 mana would be able to do. They end the fencing for that day with a lot of questions unanswered. While few were fighting, his little sister named Charlotte sees them and witnesses all that had happened. She too is shocked at the kind of skill shown by her brother. Efforts he had put into making the clone move and speak have proved to be futile. Later on, the man Tay to teach him some sword fighting skills and realizes how powerful he is. This makes him realize that he could be a demon. Later on, when he tells his wife about this, she believes they can still take care of him. He tells her about how the Hild could be the offspring of the Demon King. This surprises us since he had said earlier that the child was related to him. Does this mean he is related to the Demon King? The mother seems to be so bothered about guys that it gets her thinking. Even though Haruto is not her child, she is left with nothing but a heart of worry towards all that his father had told her. They, however, come to the conclusion that the boy could be raised as a human and be taken care of. Apparently, the young girl is hearing this and ponders on the thought of her brother being a demon. This makes all her estimations about him a reality. She is left with the thought of her brother being a demon or a human, and this gets her thorn Jan 2 ways. If you like this recap, do let me know in the comments, and obviously leave your like too. Do not forget to share with your friends and subscribe. Above all, activate your notification bell so you don't miss the next recap when it drops. Until next time, do take care and stay safe. In the bedroom, Hart wonders why his dad doesn't visit him like he usually does and assumes that he must be busy with something else. But Hart doesn't mind as long as he doesn't have to do more swordsmanship training with his dad. Suddenly, Hart hears a noise coming from outside from a maid who is looking for bandages and antiseptics to treat someone's wounds. Hart wonders what is going on outside and turns on his magical surveillance system to find out that the castle's soldiers have come back heavily injured. The support unit does everything it can to heal the heavily injured soldiers, but it's not enough. Hart goes to see his dad, who is sitting quietly in the corner, and asks him to explain this situation. So, his dad explains that lately, there has been a rash of attacks from thieves in this province. Apparently, he got information about the thieves' base and headed there to end them for good. But he and his army ended up getting counterattacked even though they were well prepared and careful. Hart's dad clenches his fist hard as he realizes that he has messed up badly, and because of this failure, he has also demoralized the remaining uninjured soldiers. Hart's dad thinks that this must be a grisly sight for him to see at such a young age, so he advises Hart to go back inside. Although Hart has his opinions to share, he remains quiet and decides to just return to his room. Hart sees Flay making fun of the royal soldiers for getting beaten by a band of thieves. It seems she is the child here instead of Hart, so Hart loses his temper and tells her to shut her mouth. On his way back with Flay, Hart secretly uses his healing magic on all the injured soldiers to completely heal them, surprising everyone, including his father. After returning to his room, Hart takes a good night's sleep while Flay stands outside of his room, waiting for him to wake up. He wakes up and opens his door to find Flay standing outside, so he asks her if she has been out there this whole time. But Flay doesn't answer him, so he realizes that she is only not responding and was waiting for him because of the order that he gave her, which was to shut her mouth. Hart realizes what a stupid maid Flay is and gives her permission to talk again after apologizing to her for losing his temper. Flay feels guilty as she thinks she has unintentionally offended him, and she apologizes to him instead. Hart forgets about it and takes Flay to the roof of the castle to show her the surveillance he has on the entire province. He reveals that he intends to find all the thieves who attacked his dad and the royal soldiers and wants to punish them. With Flay's no help, Hart locates a gang of thieves celebrating in the middle of the woods and sees that some people in soldiers' clothes are also hanging out with them. He assumes that the place these thieves are hiding must be the same place where his dad's men got ambushed. So, putting all the pieces together, Hart and Flay realize that the thieves must have known that the royal soldiers were coming to attack them because of an internal spy. So, Hart decides to wipe out all of the thieves at once and uses flight magic to head to the woods with Flay. Hart's younger sister looks out the window and sees him flying away, so she wonders who he really is. On the other side, the thieves reveal that the captain of the soldiers is actually a spy and wants to get rid of Hart's dad so he can return to his homeland. Hart comes just in time for Flay to hear everything and performs stun magic to instantly petrify all of his opponents. One of the thieves still speaks out of turn, so Hart shows him his place and then turns to the thieves in soldiers' uniforms to make them confess who they really are. He investigates the soldiers and learns that they are soldiers from the neighboring empire. Apparently, their plan is to infiltrate this kingdom by coming to the border province disguised as thieves, with the goal of causing internal mayhem. But Flay wonders how they even managed to cross the border in the first place, as there should have been troops guarding the borders. So, one of the thieves explains that they have an accomplice on this side who helped them do so. Hart realized that certain accomplices must be powerful people and that they must be after his father's life. Hart thanks the thieves for their cooperation, but he has no intention of showing any mercy as he commands Flay to burn the entire fort to the ground alongside the thieves, before Flay lights them on fire. Hart explains to them that this is their punishment for ambushing his dad. Flay then lights the fort on fire accordingly, alongside all of the thieves, and quietly leaves the place with Hart, leaving no evidence of their involvement behind. On their way back, Hart decides to send an anonymous letter to his dad to explain what happened today at the fort and goes back to his room, becoming an innocent child once again. The next day, Hart's dad, Gold's advisor, learns from the anonymous letter about the spies from another kingdom and how the thieves in the fort have been completely eradicated. The advisor then confirms to Gold that what the letter claims to be true is true after getting testimony from the thieves, who barely managed to escape the fire. Still, Gold thinks that this should be thoroughly investigated and tells his advisor to squeeze more information from the spies. Gold had already figured that they were no ordinary thieves after getting ambushed, but he couldn't believe that the Empire was involved in this as well. What he had feared all along has come to pass, and he decides to prepare for the worst. Gold's daughter, Charlotte, wonders who took care of the bad guys, and Gold assumes that it must be no one else other than Flay since she has no empathy, and is also way stronger than him. Being a demon, Gold tells Charlotte that Flay wants to establish her dominance over the monsters of this province, so he thinks she might have ended up establishing her dominance over the thieves instead. But Charlotte knows that Hart is involved in this as well, so she takes her leave from Gold and goes to Flay because she believes she is the only one who can answer her questions. She finds Flay and straightforwardly asks her if there are two Harts, as she saw him flying with Flay. But from what she knows, Hart shouldn't have enough mana to fly, so she went to his room to check on him and found him sleeping like a dog. Charlotte also reveals that she didn't sense the usual menacing aura coming from the sleeping Hart, so she assumes he is a doppelganger. Flay gets impressed by the little girl's perceptions and reveals to her that Hart has been actually blessed with immeasurable power that even exceeds human limits. She brags about how marvelous her beloved Hart is but doesn't explain how there are two Harts at the same time. For context, the one that Charlotte saw in the room was just a fake created using magic. Anyway, Charlotte changes her question and asks Flay who Hart actually is. Instead of giving an answer, Flay tells Charlotte to not worry over trivial matters and that she should mind her own business if she wants to grow big like her. Later, Flay informs Hart that Charlotte knows about his leaving the castle last night and also found out about his clone. So, it's natural for Charlotte to think Hart is incredibly suspicious. So, Hart decides to set up more surveillance on Charlotte to keep track of her movements so that she doesn't accidentally discover Hart's shenanigans again. Later at night, Hart goes out of his room to go to the toilet, and Charlotte secretly follows him to spy on him. Hart realizes that he is being followed by Charlotte, so he decides to confront her. But as he turns around, Charlotte immediately runs away. Later, when he goes to take a long, refreshing bath, Charlotte secretly follows him there too to keep an eye on him. She keeps doing so to find her brother's secret and begins to keep an eye on him when he is training with Gold, studying, having a normal conversation with Flay, or again when having a bath. Still, Hart perfectly acts like a normal kid to get around her suspicions. After a week of spying, everything almost turned normal. Hart's mom, Natalia, decides to take Charlotte on a trip with her as the annual festival is coming shortly. Gold explains to Hart that he is the one who usually goes on a trip at this time of the year, but this time, Natalia wants to go. Hart tells Natalia to take Flay with her, but Natalia can't do that as she believes Flay is running errands for Hart. Hart also remembers that he has asked Flay to intimidate the monsters of this province so that they don't attack nearby towns and villages. One night, Hart's surveillance alarm, which he put on to keep an eye on Charlotte, wakes him up, and he realizes something's definitely wrong. Apparently, the Empire soldiers have ambushed Natalia and Charlotte midway through their journey, and the soldiers are having a hard time defending themselves. Natalia tries to escape while carrying Charlotte in her arms, but the Empire soldiers use their magic to catch them and hurt Natalia's leg. One of Hart's magic spells secretly takes control over Charlotte, and she guides the escape direction to Natalia. They hurry to find a giant cliff, and Natalia jumps off with the help of her magic and lands with minimum damage. Charlotte tells Natalia that there is a place to hide nearby, and they find a beautiful, bright cave. Realizing that there must be someone else who is helping Charlotte give directions, Natalia decides to look for them, thinking they must be heroes of justice. She tells Charlotte to stay inside the cave and goes outside to see that the cave entrance has been sealed off using illusion magic. Conveniently, the Empire soldiers find Natalia at the same time, so she decides to end herself rather than get tortured by these Empire soldiers. She tries to stab her neck herself with her dagger, but Hart comes there in the nick of time to save her and turns her unconscious so that she doesn't know what he is about to do next. Hart gets furious and defeats all the Empire soldiers in mere seconds. Afterwards, he carries Natalia back inside the cave and hides his presence so that Charlotte doesn't see him. He also changes his voice and tells Charlotte to take care of her unconscious mom while help comes for them. Charlotte easily recognizes the evil aura being emitted by Hart and wonders why he saved them if he is evil. so she confronts Hart, asking him whether he is a hero of justice. Hart's brain starts to shut down as he believes Charlotte's question to be absurd and just plays along by saying yes repeatedly. So, Charlotte, with her small brain, assumes that Hart got his powers to take care of the bad guys and comes closer to Hart to apologize to him for having the wrong perception of him. Hart tells Charlotte to keep his hero of justice identity a secret because he is like Japan's Batman. So, Charlotte agrees and promises to even lie to her father for him. Hart then takes his leave from Charlotte, making an excuse that he has to do his hero work when he actually needs to get back to the castle so that the others don't get suspicious. Later at the castle, Gold gets informed by his advisor that they have received an anonymous letter about Natalia and Charlotte. According to the letter, both his wife and daughter are safe, and Flay has joined them and is escorting them as they speak. Although a number of Natalia's bodyguards were injured, there are no casualties, and all of them have been fully healed. So, Gold finally feels relieved and asks Hart what he thinks about this anonymous helper. Hart thinks that they are heroes of justice and tells Gold that the heroes of justice will take care of the Empire soldiers whenever needed again. But saying that was Hart's biggest blunder, as the letter didn't reveal that the people who attacked Natalia were Empire soldiers. But before Gold can realize his son is the hero of justice, Hart makes an excuse and saves himself from suspicion. Charlotte and Natalia finally return home, and after hugging Gold, Charlotte goes to hug her brother, whom she never talked to before. Did you enjoy this recap? If you did, kindly like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you the recap of the next episodes of this exciting Isekai anime series. Until next time, stay safe and take care. Charlotte barges into Hart's room because she wants to play with him. Hart gets mad at her for not knocking before coming in, as he is busy surveilling the castle. So Charlotte apologizes to him by hugging him. Hart explains to us that Charlotte has been staying close to him after learning Hart is actually a hero, just like she did when she thought he was a villain. However, Hart likes it because he can pet her whenever he wants to. Charlotte notices the hologram video footage behind Hart and asks him what kind of sorcery this is. Hart explains that he is using surveillance magic to keep an eye on everything. But knowing that this magic doesn't exist in this world, Hart makes an excuse to Charlotte that this magic is rare and quite ancient. Speaking of ancient magic, Hart reveals that he has also told a similar lie to his dad, Gold, that he is studying about ancient and lost magic. Since Hart is claiming to be studying ancient magic, Charlotte offers to help him learn more about lost magic by taking him to the castle's archives. The castle's archive is actually a huge library, which amazes Hart. He had never imagined such a repository of knowledge would exist right in the palm of his hands. While he is still taking in the beauty of the library hall, Charlotte quickly gathers some books of her own liking and gives them to Hart. They both begin to read the first book, and Hart learns about the reactivation of ancient magic. According to the book's information, ancient magic doesn't have any sort of attribute. Since Hart's barrier magic isn't related to earth, water, fire, or wind attributes, he realizes that his magic can also be regarded as ancient magic. Charlotte tells Hart that although she can't read very well, she takes help from Gold, Natalia, or even Flay to help her read it, and she wants Hart's help too so that she can learn more. Charlotte doesn't wait for Hart's answer and immediately sits on his lap to have a better view of the book. Hart activates his big brother skills and helps her read what's in the book. He even reads some interesting stories in the books that remind him of anime. So, Hart begins to complain, as there's no such thing as anime in this isekai world. Charlotte hears Hart's loud thoughts and asks what anime is. Seeing her stubbornness, Hart explains that anime is Charlotte doesn't understand his explanation, so he tells her that anime is basically a drawing that can move. She thinks anime is also a form of magic and wants to see it, so Hart promises to do his best so that she can watch anime. He began working hard to please his sister, and after 2 weeks, he basically broke the fourth wall of isekai and gained access to the internet. He then shows the magical tool to Charlotte after turning on kids mode, and she uses the internet to watch an anime. Seeing a girl in the anime move, Charlotte becomes amazed, but she finds a major flaw as she doesn't understand what language the girl is speaking in the anime. So, rather than adding subtitles to this world's language, our genius protagonist decides to teach little Charlotte the entire Japanese language. He makes Charlotte watch a language learning course, and she masters the basics in less than 2 hours. After learning Japanese, Charlotte continues binge-watching anime, and after 2 weeks, she comes barging into Hart's room again to watch another anime. Seeing that Charlotte is basically addicted, Hart wants to stop her from watching, but at the same time, he cannot let his sister not have fun. But then he remembers that he is Oni-chan. so he forbids Charlotte from watching TV for more than 3 hours a day, which is still a crazy amount of time. But not crazy enough, as Charlotte wants to watch all day. Yet she cannot defy her brother, and they quietly go to eat together. At the dinner table, Charlotte begins to doze off, which is the side effect of straining her eyes while watching too much anime. Her parents get concerned and ask Hart why she looks so tired when she only hung out in his room all day. Before Hart reveals the truth, Charlotte wakes up and lies to her mother, saying that she was only researching ancient magic. Natalia thinks that it's good that both siblings are learning together, and tells Hart to look after Charlotte so that she doesn't lose track of time. After dinner, Hart heads back to his room, and Charlotte follows him again as she wants to watch more anime. But Hart makes it clear that even if she follows him to his grave, he won't let her watch more anime. So Charlotte becomes upset and walks away. Before going to sleep, Hart goes for a late-night shower, and Charlotte follows him there again as she still wants to watch anime. Charlotte sees a mark on Hart's chest and assumes that it's the crest of the hero of justice. Hart goes on with her wrong assumptions, as he doesn't care anymore and continues taking a bath. Afterwards, Hart forces Charlotte to go back to her room, and then he goes to sleep. But just as he closes his eyes, Charlotte yet again follows him to his bed, this time acting like she has slept already so that he can't scold him. Their mother, Natalia, peeks at them and can't believe how well they are getting along all of a sudden. The next morning, Gold and his soldiers take an urgent leave from the castle as he needs to take care of some thieves who are causing an uproar. Natalia tells Gold to be careful, and the family bids him their goodbyes. Later in Hart's room, Charlotte gets so worried for her father that she even forgets about her anime addiction. Hart tries to cheer her up and tells her not to worry, as their father is quite a capable man. Charlotte questions why people choose to be thieves, and Hart explains that it's because of a power struggle that has recently popped up all over their country. Charlotte wants everyone in this world to live happily, so that no bad deeds are left in this world. But Hart knows that making everyone happy at the same time is impossible to achieve. Since Hart is the hero of justice in Charlotte's eyes, she tells him to kill the thieves rather than put their father in danger. In her opinion, that's what Hart's extraordinary powers should be used for. She even begins to charm him with her eyes, so Hart has no choice but to go help his dad. It seems Charlotte has seen too many Power Rangers in these 2 weeks, as she asks Hart to transform into his hero version before going to fight. She eagerly waits for him to transform, so he makes up a flashy move and transforms into Lelouch from Code Geass. Charlotte gets super impressed and wants to come along with Hart to watch his heroic act. But he can't let that happen, as that would clearly reveal his identity in front of Gold. But seeing Charlotte become disappointed, Hart comes up with a quick plan and uses his surveillance magic to summon a holographic screen so that she can watch him using that. Because of this, Charlotte's mood lightens up again, and she thanks him. Hart then leaves the room and flies to the forest to look for the thieves. He blames Charlotte for getting him involved in things in which he didn't need to get involved. But it's his big sister, so he has no choice but to comply, and he gives off a sigh before using his surveillance magic. After looking for the thieves for a few seconds, Hart easily locates them and uses his barrier magic to close their possible escape routes. Hart thinks that he should just leave them be so that Gold and his army can take credit. But then he remembers that Charlotte is watching his every move from home and will get upset if she doesn't see him in action. So he flies to the thieves' location and jumps down, claiming to be the hero of justice. Seeing Hart's clothes, the thieves think that he is just a clown and go to attack him anyway. Hart teaches them a lesson by using jabs, kicks, and rapid punches. Hart beats them so much that they are left unconscious, so he thinks he went a little overboard. Conveniently, Gold and his army reach the place just as Hart finishes their job and asks him for his identity. Seeing Hart's uncanny outfit, Gold doesn't think that he is associated with the thieves and concludes that this isn't a mere internal conflict. He asks Lelouch, aka Hart, if he defeated all of the thieves by himself, but Hart hesitates to answer. So, Gold thinks he came out rude and introduces himself. He then asks for Lelouch's name, but he fails to come up with any and tells Gold that his name is Donoyet. Gold thinks that it is actually his name and assumes that Donoyet is the same hero of justice who rescued his wife and daughter prior to this incident. Hart stays in character and tells Gold that he is, in fact, the hero of justice. Gold wonders why he is helping his family and asks Hart what his goal is. So, Hart comes up with the lie that he only wishes for justice, and that his goal is to spread absolute justice. Hart's dumb act even embarrasses himself, so he retreats and flies off, leaving Gold and his army totally stunned. Hart then comes back to his room, fully exhausted, and gets praised by Charlotte, who tells him he is very cool. Although she sees that Hart can hardly move, she tells him to fight someone again. So, to keep his little sister's request, Hart disguises himself as Lelouch once again and goes to fight more criminals. Seeing her brother fight becomes Charlotte's new form of entertainment, and she makes him fight again and again. After doing an honest day's work, Hart falls flat on his bed, but he feels happy that he is now a hero in his little sister's eyes. The next morning, Hart decides to do something about Charlotte's over-attachment towards him and creates a perfect clone of himself that even acts the same as him. Hart's clone's responses are on point, which even amazes Hart, even though he is its creator. Hart explains that he studied hard at the library and was able to make a copy robot with the scraps of information that he found in the books. With this invention, Hart believes that he can finally hole up in his room. Charlotte reveals herself to be under the bedsheets and sees two Harts standing. So, she gets surprised and wonders which one is the real one. Flay comes to ask Hart to do some work, but he doesn't want to and tells his clone to do it. But his clone has the same character as him, so it tells him to do the work. Later, the royal family's children visit Gold's castle, and the Prince Laius complains about the place being rusty. The Princess Marion tells the prince not to be rude and tells him to behave himself. Gold welcomes the prince and the princess to his castle, telling them that he feels honored that they have come all this way to grace them with their presence. Rather than greeting, Prince Laius gets more interested with the boy of his same age, Hart, and seeing his hair color mismatch with the others, he assumes that Hart is adopted. And Hart wonders if Laius and Marion are his real siblings since he knows that he is also from the royal family. Laius tries to make himself look high in front of Hart and tells them that they should respect him as he is the next king of this country. So, Gold properly bows to Laius and apologizes to him if he has unwillingly offended him in any way. Marion again tells Laius to show some manners, but he remains determined to be rude and even insults his own sister. Hart wonders how someone can be so stupid and glares at Laius in awe. Laius, of course, notices that and decides to insult Hart this time. He calls Hart a two-piece junkie who got adopted from the orphanage and challenges him to a duel for no reason. Gold has no other option but to comply with royalty and hold the duel between them. Hart wonders why things went south and decides to just go easy on Laius. Their duel begins, and Hart intentionally takes a good beating for no reason. Laius tells him to fight back, so Hart gets up and gives him a well-deserved beating. Laius uses a fire spell on Hart, but he easily negates his attacks. Hart gets irritated and shows Laius a glimpse of his true power, so Laius gives up and admits defeat. Marion apologizes to Hart for her brother's rudeness and wants to talk about why Hart is so strong even though his stats say that he is weak. Because he is the main character. Did you enjoy this recap? If you did, kindly like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you the recap of the next episodes of this exciting iSky anime series. Until next time, stay safe and take care.